Alrighty, we are back again, retired overseas. Yes, today's video we're going to talk about that guy there. We're going to talk about Vitaly being deported. We're going to talk about a documentary that he's coming out with, and that is going to be quite the interesting thing that we have there. The other thing we're going to talk about is, since I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, American expat in Korea. We're going to touch a little bit on the Coupang drama. That is an Amazon-like company. It is actually a United States company that does the majority of their business, here in Korea. And there were some bad things that happened. We're going to talk about the exchange rate, and then I got some printed stuff over there, so it's going to be a mishmash of different types of things. So, like I said, I'm Steve, and this is the channel, The Varied Life, because I do a lot of varied things, from 3D printing to resin to miniature paintings to being an American expat in Korea to, I don't know, just being retired, and sometimes I'm tired. And it is what it is with the craziness that goes on in the world. So anyway, first thing we're going to talk about is jumping right into the mix. If you don't know who Vitaly is and know that he's been deported back to Russia, you might want to get out from under that rock that you've been living in, because, yeah, this is a thing. For those of you who don't know, Vitaly Zordovetsky he's one of those nuisance streamers. So in other words, he's one of those YouTube streamers that ends up just harassing people. He's gone to different countries. He actually got in trouble in the United States for assault and battery of a woman who was out jogging. And it's so weird because he was on a visa in the United States because he's a Russian citizen. So in other words, he kind of had a green card thing going on, but yet he committed crimes and he assaulted and beat this woman up. I mean, just pummeled her. And I'm not sure why he wasn't deported after that. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So he decided to go to other countries because his clout was fading. His fame was going down the tubes, and nobody, so to get the clicks and the views and all that stuff, he started being a nuisance streamer. Nuisance streamers are absolutely the worst people in the world because they push the boundaries, they harass people. A lot of them break the laws, but they hope that when they're in another country, because of the language barriers, that they'll be let off, and it's like, just get rid of him. They'll think, he's a nuisance, just let him go and kick him out, and, small fine, and that'll be it. Well, Vitaly ended up doing a lot of crazy stuff in the Philippines, and so, threatening people, stealing stuff, the whole 9 yards, and he tried to bribe people. His mom got online and do a GoFundMe thing, and then she ended up getting ripped off of a bunch of money. Of course, she was crying that her son, Vitaly is he's in the Philippines in prison, and it's like, well, yeah, because he broke the law, and then he was considered an undesirable, so the immigration people had a hold of him for a while. And a lot of people were really hoping he would get sentenced for, 5-10 years or so for what he did. Well, it ends up his mom cried, but there were no tears. Again, it was the alligator tears, my poor son, and whining and crying, and no tears. It's amazing how that happens when you can't cry on demand. That was all fake. So anyway, they tried bribing officials to get Vitaly to get him out of prison and so on and so forth. And while there's a lot of corruption in the Philippines, apparently that didn't work too well. So even now there's people that are saying, it was supposed to be like a year or two before he even got his court date or whatever. Then people will drop in the charges. So there's rumors of his mom and stuff, him and his mom bribing the victims and giving them money and saying, hey, don't show up, don't, drop your case, whatever it is. So that way there would be no charges against them. There's no victim and they don't file the complaint or the testimony, or they change their mind because they got a bunch of money. That was kind of the thing that was going on as well. So it went from he was going to go to court to where he was going to end up just in immigration prison because he's an undesirable, and there's some laws in the books that were there. He ended up staying in prison for 9 months. And before he went to prison, he was like all smirky and egotistical and the whole 9 yards, saying, "Oh, if I go to prison, it's no big deal. I'm a man. I can take it." Blah blah blah. And then he got arrested before he could leave the Philippines. Yeah. And then over time, the smirk and the smile and the narcissistic little prick, all of that changed. So yeah, he got into the Philippine prison and lost a bunch of weight. His hair grew out and he got skinny. And yeah, suddenly, there's no smart ass remarks. There was none of that was going on. So what happened to him? Well, it ends up that he got deported. So it says here that he got deported on the 17th. Yeah, he's been deported to Russia. This is very important because he has a green card, or had a green card, in the United States, but I guess the U.S. said, nope, we're done. We got John Rich here. Hey, good morning, good to see you. Yeah, welcome to the channel. We're doing some good stuff here. Talking about Vitaly, who got, he spent 9 months in a Filipino prison, and finally he got deported. So there's his face there. He's deported. Look at it. Look at how he's not. There's no smart-ass remarks. There's no smirking, no smiling. Yeah, he disrupting public order. Yeah, he's been a blacklist, barring his return from the Philippines, which I think would be a good thing for other countries. If you, kind of like a no-fly list, if you end up being a dick and you're put on a no-fly list and you can't ever fly on an airplane again, I think countries should look at these nuisance streamers and be proactive and say, you know, so you got like Korea. I live in Korea. Korea should look at this and say, Vitaly, ban him from Korea permanently. Japan should do the same thing. Arigato. You know, no, we don't want him. I think every country should be proactive to these nuisance streamers and tell them, and just put them on the ban list and say, hey, you can't come to our country. And that would fix the problem of nuisance streamers. Because if they can't come into your country, guess what? Yeah, it's not going to be a deal anymore. So anyway, yeah, it ends up he wasn't really smirking anymore. It was nothing. Yeah, he's just kind of like, yeah, all of that changed. So it ends up the deportation order stemmed from various complaints who had harassed and disrespected several Filipinos, public peace and safety, committed acts deemed contrary to morals, good customs, and public policy. He was first arrested in April of last year. So yeah, spent 9 months in a Filipino prison. We've seen a number of videos on that, and I used to work in prisons for over 11 years. Yeah, in the United States, I wouldn't wish a Filipino prison on anyone, but then again, he effed around and found out, and so I fully endorse him, you know, being in prison. Pranking videos and all that stuff. He stole stuff and harassed security guards in BGC and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it ends up that, yeah, he's out of there. That's kind of the thing. With that, it also ends up that 3 BI, basically it's immigration officers sacked over the Russian vlogger's detention videos. Because while he was there, Vitaly did a number of things. First of all, he's in prison. Second, what he ended up doing is he found God. You know, that was a big thing. You know, he was like in the midst of his mom trying to bribe the victims and to get them to drop charges. He found God. He got, you know, he got baptized and all this stuff. And suddenly he saw the light, the error of his ways. And he's like been in Bible study and all that stuff. And to that, I would say, as somebody who's worked in prisons, you know, Medium R did a little bit of work in maximum prisons in Colorado, but mostly medium restricted prisons with people that unalive people, people that grape people, people that were PDFs with think of your age and think of the age of consent. And when you can't, yeah, I've worked with all those people, and yeah, it is quite the interesting thing. But the majority of the people that find God in prison, when they get out, or if they get out, suddenly that all goes away. And that's based on personal experience. It's just like, you know, it's a way to cope. It's a way to belong to a group of people so that you you know, you don't have to join a gang supposedly, but you know that's kind of not really a thing. But yeah, he found God and he saw the error of his ways, and I'm going to call BS. I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say it's BS. And sure enough, now he ends up, because he made videos while he was in prison and he's making a documentary of his time in the Filipino prison. So that's why these three executives ended up getting sacked. So yeah, let's see what it ends up saying here. Three immigration officials were sacked from their post after he was deported because he managed to record videos during his detention. You see this in prisons around the world. In the prisons that I worked at two prisons. One of the prisons was in Colorado. Well, both of them was Territorial Correctional Facility, which was a prison before Colorado was even a state. Yeah, there was that, and then I worked at Fremont Correctional Facility, and also did some, you know, little minor work at a couple of other prisons, like the Max prison there, you know, CSP, 4 Mile. What was another one I went to? I can't remember the name of the other ones, but it was just kind of like fill-in work and stuff like that. So yeah, I think you find inmates, they get cell phones, they're smuggled in through various ways, and it doesn't take much to get that. You know, if that happens in American prisons, which are really, their security measures are really high standards, getting a phone into a Filipino prison is so much easier. So anyway, yeah, this came amid accusations that he received special treatment during his arrest, especially after the vlogger revealed he was able to document his detention. This is going to be a bad look for the Philippines in the prison system and the Bureau of Immigration, because he was able to record earlier parts of his detention at the detention facility. Yeah, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. Still under investigation, warned additional officials could be dismissed if their involvement or shortcomings were proven. So yeah, this isn't the end. And like I said, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Vitaly, where he didn't really find God. I think he just did that to try to court, try to gain some respect and kind of play the part of the apologetic. I found God, the error of my ways. Oh Lord, forgive me. Because in the Philippines, it's like 90% of the people there are Catholic. So yeah, religion's a real big thing, and that all stemmed from Spain being in the Philippines for, what is it, like 250, 300 years, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it was a long time. So religion is really ingrained in the Filipino people. So if he ends up finding God and getting baptism, I think that was all a ploy for him to try to curry favor in the eyes of the authorities that were over him and overlooking his cases, and saying, you know, well, he found God. Oh, all is forgiven. God is the one that forgives, and we should love our neighbor as ourselves. The whole night. I think he knew that was the thing, and so he tried to pull the religion card. And yeah, it's like I said, now that this documentary is coming out, like I said, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Vitaly he hasn't seen the error of his ways. He's going right back to what he's going to be doing before, and he's going to milk this for everything that it's worth. Okay, so even though he was in prison, he's pretty resourceful, and you know, the snake that he is, the deplorable person that he is going to take advantage for that, and all for clicks and views. He's a despicable human being in my opinion. So kind of like what Johnny Somali is here in Korea, Vitaly's the same way. But there's no shortage of idiots in the world. That's absolutely sure, because as soon as he was deported back, Philippines said, hey, you know, it's kind of a catch and release thing. We release one, we'll get two more in its place. So what they ended up doing in the Philippines, they had some other interesting things. They had a couple people here, as we can see, and one of these interesting little people here, the guy on the top, he's from like Estonia, and he's a YouTuber, and he went online saying that, hey, I'm in the Philippines, I have HIV and I'm going to spread it here in the Philippines. I'm just going to super soak everybody with my HIV and blah, 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 which of course was a wild claim to make, but it is a very dangerous claim to make. And so, sure enough, as you can see, he's wearing those nice shiny bracelets. He ended up getting arrested because he's a jerk. And he's a nuisance streamer. And like I said, here's the problem. If the Philippines, and I called this out and so did so many other people, if the Philippines didn't take a hard-nosed stance on nuisance streamers and like nail them to the wall, what did I say? What did other people say? They said, you know what? Other streamers are going to go there. They're going to see. There's going to be, oh, well, look at all the drama that's there because of Vitaly. Well, I'm going to go there and I'm going to do stuff and I'm going to get some clout and I'm going to get likes, clicks, and views. I'm going to make money by harassing and making threats. Holy crow. And the wildest thing, I'm going to be 60 this year. The wildest thing that I have seen is that people like Vitaly, like this Estonia dude, and we'll get to the little guy down there in the bottom, he's kind of a creeper. All of these people record themselves and stream it live of everything they do. So it's not like you can say, oh, I didn't say that. No, it's recorded for eternity. And all you have to do is just, and people copy this stuff and they turn it over to the authorities. And so there's no arguing it. It's not like, oh, it was just a joke. No, you didn't say it was a joke. And you said, you know, with a serious face that you're going to spread HIV to a bunch of people in the Philippines. You think the Philippines government might have an issue with that? Probably. Do you think that the Filipino citizens, who are good, hardworking people, do you think they might have an issue with that? Yeah, hell, yeah. So he got the silver bracelets where his freedom is being taken away. Yeah, this is getting to a point of, I think I'm going to call this out, that eventually, excuse me, eventually countries are going to preemptively strike against nuisance streamers and they will pre-ban them from entering countries. And I think that is a logical and common sense approach. And I hope that a lot of countries will start doing this, that they'll start seeing, you know, these people on Kick and this and that on other social media where they're being jerks or they're harassing people, they're breaking laws in other countries. You know, like Johnny Somali, he went to Israel, he went to Japan, he got in trouble in both of those places. That, hey, that should be a red flag, and, you know, Japan should have saw what he was doing when he was in Israel and got in trouble over there. And so when he tried to come to Japan, they should have preemptively said, hey, you show up? Nope, sorry, you're not showing up. And kick him out. That would have fixed that problem. And then Korea should have done the same thing, but those countries didn't. And so Johnny Somali ended up doing a bunch of stupid stuff here in Korea, and he's still staying here. It's been over a year. So, but he's out on his own recognizance. So there's that. It'll be interesting to see how that goes with him. But like I said, if you don't slam dunk these people who are nuisance streamers, they're going to multiply like cockroaches. And that's what we ended up seeing. Let's go back here to, so the Estonia dude up top, that he ended up doing his thing there. And then, yeah, he was harassing residents, making racist remarks. Oh, the guy in the bottom. That's it. Dun, dun, dun. The guy in the bottom, he was a freak. I've seen his videos on YouTube, and it's like, that dude's a creeper. That dude right down there is a creeper because he goes around the Philippines, he travels, and all this stuff. And it was just not good. Where is it? Yeah, the bottom guy is a Russian national, or the top guy is the Russian national who said he was going to spread HIV. The guy on the bottom, it ends up that he was kind of harassing, this is it, he's the Estonian guy, was the guy at the bottom. And he was harassing locals, residents, making racist remarks, calling Filipinos monkeys and stuff like that. He was also very handsy with the young underage women. And so there was, in other articles that I've seen, they've talked about him doing that as well. So he gave me that creeper vibe. That dude was like, Um, yeah, it was really rough because you see his videos, and me spending 11 years working in multiple prisons in Colorado, I get to see a lot of those PDFs, and I get to see the vibes, and you can feel it, and you can see how they operate. There's different mannerisms. You know, I mean, it's almost like a signature. The way somebody acts if you're a PDF versus if you're a serial rapist or if you're a person who unalives other people, there's different vibes in all this. You know, if you're a gang member, if you're a Sorteño or Norteño, or if you're a part of the Aryan Brotherhood or whatever, you know, there's different types of offshoots of gang. They all have their own vibes. And the PDFs are the ones that are the creepers. They, you know, they stand out more than anybody else. Um, it was just really, and so when I watched his videos, it ends up that that guy on the bottom, he was quite the creeper. He gave off creeper vibes that just kind of like red flags just went out everywhere when I was watching his videos, and I was like, seeing what he was doing and how he talks and his mannerisms and all that stuff, it's like, dude, that dude is a creeper. Um, and it's just, I'm not surprised that he got in trouble. Of course, the other guy up top, it says that, you know, threatening the HIV, they actually clarified with medical tests showed that he was negative and dismissing the incident as an attempt to gain attention. But still, the fact remains is the dude up top is, he's stupid. He's an idiot. He's a nuisance streamer, and that he shouldn't be allowed in any country. So again, Korea, Japan, all these other countries that are considered places to go for expats or easy to visit, third world countries and so on and so forth, you need to get on the ball and pre-ban these people because they're going to be a problem. And you need to step on this cockroach before it gets in your country. So pre-ban them. That's all you got to do. That would be my 2 cents on how you need to fix this stuff. So anyway, we had that going on. I mean, imagine being in a foreign country, a country that accepts you, and you know, all they ask is you be respectful and, you know, be a good person, be respectful. But yet you go and you make threats. Saying that you have HIV and you're going to spread it to people, you're a creeper, you know, you're inappropriately touching people that are outside of your own age, let's say, kind of got that PDF vibes. That is not something that you want in your country. So we're going to see more and more of this. And it's going to get to the point where the boiling point is it's going to boil over and these countries are going to start taking more and more action. It's going to be reactionary, but I hope that countries will be proactive, ban these people before they even get to the country. So that's a thing. That's a thing. That is going to happen. Kind of similar to what we end up seeing in China with social credit ratings, social ratings, and so on and so forth. Is that if if you're a good person and you pick up trash and you help in the community and all that stuff, there's a rating system in China. And then if you're a bad person, tell lies, trash everywhere, and you get drunk and you harass other people, your social credit score goes down, then you're limited in where and how you can travel in China. Am I condoning that? It's a very interesting world that we live in. But countries do have their own sovereignties and they can do what they want. So I can see, that kind of, let's give an incentive for people to be good and do good and kind of have a little bit of a punishment and saying, hey, well, if you're going to be bad, there's going to be some consequences. Cause and effect, FAFO, that's kind of a universal thing with all countries. But I think it needs to be more widespread, and I think there needs to be more good people than bad people. So however that works out, I don't know. I just try to be a good person regardless, and then I don't have to worry about anything. So yeah, we got that going on. Other stuff that we talk about, the Coupang drama, it's interesting because, like I said, I'm an American expat, retired here in Korea. I've been here just over 3 years. Total altogether in Korea has been 15 years. Did time in the military at various points in my career, and then of course we retired here, and it's been great. But with that, we had the Coupang drama. Coupang is like an Amazon type service here in Korea, but it's an American company. The CEO is Kim Bok. He's actually from Korea, and I guess he became a Korean citizen, but he started the Coupang, which is kind of like Amazon. And there's a lot of problems because there's a data leak. First, he called it data exposure because by law and the company's own policies, if it's a data leak, you have to report it. And so he didn't report it, and he got in trouble because he said it was an exposure, and then it was actually a huge data leak. 33.7 million people's personal data was stolen by an ex-Chinese employee of Coupang. And Coupang said, hey, first they ignored it. And then they downplayed it. And then they found out, and then you look at the timeline of what Coupang says versus what actually happened. It's two totally different stories. Two totally different stories. It is like, and then Coupang said, hey, well, we're working with the Korean government. We're working hand in hand with them. And we got in contact with the perpetrator, the person who stole, the ex-employee who stole all that information. And they went back to China and they admitted it. And so we got a confession. And then he just so happened that the Chinese guy had all that personal information on a laptop. He left China, came back to Korea, threw the laptop in the Han River, and Coupang was able to recover that in lightning fast speed. And guess what? No harm, no foul. Everything is good in the world. And it's like, yet the Korean government is like, yeah, we don't know anything about this. None of this is verified. So Coupang is doing a lot of, they're getting investigated by the SEC, Security Exchange Commission, and there's talk about class action lawsuits, and of course investors are kind of having problems. But now because he donated millions and millions of dollars to politicians, now the politicians in the United States are saying like, oh, this is unfair. He's being unfairly treated by those in Korea. And it's like, seriously, you're going to take that route? I guess corruption pays. You know, birds of a feather flock together. So here what we end up seeing is that Coupang investors seek U.S. probe over Korea's handling of the data leak. Now they're trying to flip the script to say that, the Korean government is the bad guy here. What? Coupang lied so many times it's not even funny. So two major investors in Coupang said they have petitioned the U.S. government to investigate the Korean government and potentially impose trade remedies, what they describe as discriminatory treatment of the e-commerce company. If you look at the number of lies that Coupang said, this makes no sense. This is just pure corruption. Talks about these tech investors that they filed arbitration claims against Korea under the U.S.-Korea Free Trade Act, accusing Seoul of mounting a campaign against Coupang following consumer data breach that caused billions of dollars in losses for investors. The move comes after Coupang reported that personal data of 33 million customers were compromised, triggered a backlash from lawmakers and the public, which prompted wide-ranging investigations as well as lawsuits from investors and consumers. Yeah, they're saying that Korea suddenly, went overboard on all this. And it's like, there's kind of a reason for this because, Coupang lied their ass off. The guy, Bok Kim, ends up, saying, hey, here's what happened. And then we find out the facts. And it's like, no, those two things are not matching up. It doesn't make sense. So what we found out is that the Chinese ex-employee of Coupang left. And it was like almost a year that he had been gone. And then he had this information and gained access to all this information after he left Coupang. So obviously, security policies were not followed by Coupang themselves of saying, hey, we're going to restrict, somebody leaves the company, you're not authorized, we're going to change the passwords, you're going to have no access to anything whatsoever, no emails, no files, whatever. You have to give all that back to us. That's a thing these days, and it's been that way for decades. So anyway, they didn't even follow their own security protocols. Chinese ex-employee is in China with the laptop with all this, and suddenly there's more phishing and scamming going on here in Korea than they know what to do with. But Coupang says, oh, no, that's just that doesn't prove anything. We got it. Saying that the Chinese ex-employee left China to come back to Korea after it was known that he stole this personal information of 33.7 million people, showed up in the Han River, threw the laptop in the Han River to dispose of it, and then flew back to China. That makes no sense whatsoever. If he's in China, there is no extradition order between China and Korea. So he could have just stayed in China and be like, destroy the laptop and the computer and kind of, bury it, burn it in in an oven or something, whatever it is, destroy it, run magnets all over it, put it in a shredder, and it'd be good to go. So if anybody did come to him and say, hey, you're we heard that you stole this and you were the employee of Coupang, that you stole this information. And he's like, what information? Do you have any proof? Well, you had a laptop. I don't know where the laptop is. But now he's going to risk getting caught entering Korea with the laptop and the evidence, and he's going to go to Korea, put himself in danger of being arrested, and then go throw it in the river, which Coupang so miraculously recovered and then determined on their own internal investigation of saying, hey, it's all here. Nothing strange is afoot. Nothing was compromised. We have the laptop. That's such BS. It is absolute BS. So anyway, it ends up, Korean people are pretty mad. And I had a Coupang account, and we're pretty mad as well. We had to change all our information and so on and so forth. And there are more phishing schemes and online criminal activity with that information. It's not even funny. So anyway, it ends up that the Korean president, Lee Jae-myung, who called for tougher penalties after that data breach, and that's where he's like, hey, usually it's just a small percentage, 1% to 3%, and that's your penalty, and boom, you pay it and you're done. But the problem is this was such a gross mishandling of all this sensitive information that the president was talking about, hey, let's up that to maybe 10% or more or something like that. And then that's where the talks about, hey, there's going to be a class action lawsuit and so on and so forth. And then because of, it just ends up that it's just a shit show is what it comes down to. You have too many people here in Korea and now the United States government, because Coupang and Kim Bok ended up donating millions to certain politicians. Now all these politicians are like, Coupang didn't do anything that's wrong. We need to sanction Korea for all the bad stuff they're doing against this U.S. company. They're bought and paid for. That's what it is. So, it absolutely crazy on what's going on. So anyway, we got that going on. Other stuff that is happening here in Korea is the Korean stock market has hit a 46-year high. It finally popped over 5,000. It took a long time. It's like a 46-year record that it finally popped over 5,000. So it seems like Korea is doing really well, but the problem is the exchange rate's not. That is a huge problem. So people that are wondering about that, if we look at the exchange rate currently, let's go ahead and refresh this. 1465. Yep, 1465. And it just doesn't look that good. So, it's we can see that it was pretty high, and then it dipped into the 1400s. Now it's back. It was almost 1500, which was actually, there was in 2025. Yeah, it was 1470-ish, and now it is, 1465? 1465. And the problem is with the stock market doing so well, but the exchange rate isn't doing well at all, because it should be a lot lower than that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably should be around 1,300 won to the dollar. 12 or 1,300 won to the dollar is kind of what I see as being the norm. For the longest time, it used to be 1,100 won to the dollar. But now, when it got up to 1,500 won to the dollar, back in, 97 or whatever, when the IMF had to do a bailout, and it's not just because of the exchange rate, because there was a lot of debt, there was a lot of other things that was going on in Korea, that the IMF had to bail them out. Well, now the IMF is coming back and saying, hey, we got some problems here in Korea, and the debt outlook and everything doesn't look good. And so the Korean president, President Lee, has said, hey, well, he's been president for a minute. And he says, well, I'm going to fix this. So what they ended up doing is they had their pension fund, kind of like our Social Security in the United States, and they ended up taking that money that was invested overseas, and I guess they brought it back or whatever. It was kind of a weird move to kind of offset, the Korean won to the US dollar that they had and held and the debts that they have and whatever, to try to make it at the end of the year, like November, December, January, try to slow down the runaway won exchange rate so that their credit rating in the world would kind of stabilize a little bit, but it was kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound. It's, it had made a little bit of a help, but then it went right back to climbing back up. And then there's a lot of people saying, hey, taking out that national pension fund out of overseas investments wasn't a good idea. And you got some people say that it was a good idea, others don't. But the fact is that the won rate kept going up. So we're at 1465. It was like 1470. So it kind of dipped down a little bit. But now the South Korean president says, well, I'm going to fix this. I know how to fix this, so don't worry. Don't worry. I can fix all this. And then it's like, that begs the question, if you knew how to fix this all along, why didn't you fix it when you first got into office? There's only a couple options. Either you're telling the truth and you knew how to fix this, but you let the Korean economy stay in such a bad state for so long. Why did you wait? Sounds like incompetence to me, or there's some alternative motive to that. I'm on good drugs. That's all there is to it. I gotta be straight up with you. I slipped and I fell this morning. My back was all seized up, so I am on a myriad of painkillers and muscle relaxants and anti-inflammatories. So if you're kind of wondering why I'm slurring a little bit, that's the reason why. So there's some ulterior motive. That was the word I was looking for. And if, or are you just saying that you know how to fix this, but you really don't, but you're just trying to give some false hope and saying, oh, well, I know how to fix this. Well, if you really did know how to fix it, why didn't you fix it when you first came in? And why do we see a series of things that were done that didn't fix it, but now suddenly, so what was the thinking behind that? Was the thinking like, well, I know how to fix it, but I'm going to do all these other things that doesn't fix it, and then that'll make the fixing it better? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. So either he knew how to fix it, and he just waited for some strange reason, maybe get more clicks and views and more, it just makes no sense. Or he really doesn't know, and it's an empty promise. So I don't know how this is going to work out. This is going to be a very interesting one, and I don't know how it's going to go. Why am I so concerned about this? I'm an American expat living in Korea. I get paid in US dollars and I convert them to US won or to Korean won. So actually, when this exchange rate is in this condition, the 1400s and almost 1500 won to the dollar, that's good for me. I'm making about 10, 15, sometimes 20% on currency exchange, which works out great for me and other people like me. Not so good for the Korean people. So yeah, it's weird because we're kind of like right in the middle. It's bad for Korea, and I care for the Korean people and the Korean economy. But at the same time, it's good for us when the exchange rate is so high for US dollars. So it's just kind of an odd thing because the stock market has hit record 46-year record high, which is awesome. But then the exchange rate is so bad, people are kind of scratching their heads and they're like, well, what's going to happen? And then there's some talk about debt and then credit ratings as Korea and the World Bank. And that's when the IMF has kind of popped in and chimed in and said, hey, remember, you're not doing so well. So, you might need to borrow money from us again to get your credit rating back to where it is. And what ended up in November and December just recently is them moving some stuff around to make it look like, hey, we've got everything under control, because that's when the reporting period was to get the credit rating. And yeah, that's when the IMF is like, yeah, the little playing around and little tiny cleanup you did, that's not conducive of a stable financial economy. So yeah, it didn't really work out. It worked out a little bit, but IMF kind of called their bluff, and it's like, hey, you need to be careful. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm fully expecting, along with basing my 2 cents on Korean economists, is that we'll probably see a 1,500 won exchange rate, and it will be that way for a while. There needs to be some serious things, but if it goes, here's the other problem. Because of the problems with Coupang, and if the United States retaliates against the Korean government for doing the right thing against Coupang, who did the absolutely wrong thing on so many levels, that could be bad. And so, yeah, I'm fully expecting, if that's punitive, the United States against Korea, other countries will see that, and the confidence in the Korean economy will go down. But Korea does have some other things going on. There's so many different variables and moving parts that it's hard to tell. But what we do know is that it's still in the 1465, 1450-ish range. We're still getting a good deal on U.S. dollar to won. So we're happy, but we're not happy because it's bad for Korea. And Koreans are hardworking people and respectful, and the crime is low. We really like it here. So that part of me, a larger part of me, is like, oh, I don't want to see this bad economy for the Korean people. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Let's see, some other stuff that we got going on. I printed out some more stuff on my 3D printer, so that's what we end up having there. We might actually go over there and check that out. So making a little vent system. It's a little, I guess, like an experimental part. I'm going to have like a vent hole that goes to the outside. So when I do 3D printing and stuff, we evacuate that outside, have a little filter thing. So I think we'll go head over there next. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and head over to the paint station there, and we'll take a look at some of this stuff. My back's feeling a little bit better. Let me turn on the tablet over here, so that way if somebody comments, I'll be able to read some of the comments. So this is what we end up having here. This is the parts, and we're going to see if my measurements were correct. So I made a little screen thing that we got going on there, which is, does that fit in there? So close, so close. Almost. But this actually goes on the outside. And then we have this piece here. And yeah, this turned out pretty good. Printed out at 0.2 millimeter layer height. And of course the top is going to be messed up, but this is just a little thing here. And we'll take off these supports, and I'm not too worried about the inside of this, but not too bad. And we got some other supports over here. So basically this is going to be a vent, and we got a little brim on here, so we'll take this off. We'll put this thing together. We got some connectors that we can use. And yeah, so we'll be able to have a little vent, a little filter on there, and there it is. So not bad. We cut this up in quality print, but you can see we got some pretty good surface area there. Let's see if this can focus. Focus. Yeah. Nice. So it turned out pretty good, except for the little, big layer lines there, which isn't a big deal. Let's get rid of these. Throw those in the trash. And it's cool having a 3D printer to be able to do all this stuff. So, yeah. make our little own parts on Tinkercad and make custom little stuff going on here. And it's pretty cool. So we'll kind of do this together. And this is some of the stuff that I do because I am retired. So besides going to the gym and some other stuff, it ends up that, yeah, this ends up being good. And boom. So that's what we end up seeing. Not bad. Not bad. Got some good surface areas. This is all going to be on the inside, so I don't really care on how that is. And we just used, this is kind of like a proof of concept to see if I got all my measurements right. Because I'm not like a super CAD guy. So with that, just make some demo parts, and then we'll probably do this in a better filament. So something that can handle high heat and extreme cold. It's sort of cold now, so I'm not too worried about it. But when we get into the Korean summers, that is going to be quite the interesting thing. So yeah, and then we got some little dowels here that we can end up using. And yeah, it'll be good. So we can actually test this thing out and see if this works. And then we've got some super glue or CA glue. We also have some activator. So when we put this thing together, we'll see how this goes. So we got our little dowels. Oops. And we can put all this thing together. So we'll give this a shot. I mean, the cool thing of 3D printing is you can make just about anything that you want. I've made a number of things, like we end up having like this guy here. This was 3D printed, and of course I painted this guy up, which looks pretty good. And then cosplay parts, functional items, functional prints. I mean, it's just kind of a cool little thing to do. So yeah. Now we'll see if these little dowels will fit in the holes, or do I need to file them down? It seems like I might have to file them down. Let's try. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to widen out these holes, or kind of sand these down somehow. So maybe we can widen these out. And really I don't need all of these. I just need a couple. So how are we going to do this? Because it doesn't go in there, it goes in like 5 millimeters, so it's not really big. And actually you just need like 2 of these to go in. But I think what we're going to need is a little X-Acto knife stuff. Let's see if we can trim these edges without cutting myself. That'll be... Because there's a little bit of a tolerance, and it should have adjusted it, but when I made this, I totally spaced it out. So I kind of knew I was going to have this problem. And then I started printing this yesterday, and this is like an 11-hour print. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting. I just need to get like 2 of them. And then the rest, I can end up getting that super glue in the activator, and we should be good to go. But I should have added like a 0.2, made these just like 0.2 millimeters smaller, but I didn't. Because I wasn't paying attention. So we will see if we can get this in there. See if we can kind of trim this up just a bit. Like I said, we just need 2 to line this thing up. And then we can do the super glue and everything with the activator, and that will get rid of the problem of not having all these pegs in here. They're just like alignment. I should have made them. Let's see. I'll do one there. Let's see if we can do one on the other side. And like I said, won't be too big of a deal because we'll just do a bead of super glue on one side, and then we'll put it together, and then we'll spray the activator on there, and it'll seal that thing up really nicely. And I should have made these bigger, or at least done the adjustment on there. So we got one there. Let's see if we can do another one over here. Maybe we can do this. Then now we can trim this up. Seriously? Where did it go? Ah, it broke off in there. Dang it. Good thing I got a number of these. I mean, worst case scenario, I can just kind of put it together and then spray the activator, and it should be good. Let's see if we can't get this, at least we'll get the two dowels in here. Try it on another one. Again, this hole should have been a little bit deeper, but and the dowel's just a tad smaller. And so now, since that is going to be that one there, do that one, and then this one. Let's kind of widen these holes out a little bit. kind of gets it. Alrighty, so I think we should be good. So now, I had some clamps. I needed some clampy clamps. And I think I got those in the other room, so let's go get those. Okay, we have clampage. We have clampage. So we can use these as well. Might as well get these ready. Just to kind of get a estimate. That'll be good on that one. That'll be close enough. Now, hopefully this will work. This stuff and this stuff is awesome for prints. That is for sure. So I'll just go ahead and I'll just run a bead with this stuff. Like so. And we're good. And then what we'll end up doing, we'll put these together. And then we can get our clamps. Stay. And we'll get this clamp. We'll put him on here. We should be good to go. And now, what we can end up doing is we can spray our activator. Oh, well, wait a second. Maybe we should do this. There we go. I'll just kind of spray away, see what happens. And we should be good. So that activator should activate and we should have a good seal. This activator stuff is wicked as far as like bonding and doing all that stuff. And I think we are good to go. So let's, and yeah. So there is our vent. And we can seal this up, kind of smooth that out if we wanted to. But really, almost sealed up. I think I got a tiny little hole up in there, but that's not that big of a deal. But we'll run a bead. And it's, like I said, it's not like it's going to be crazy. We'll just do a bead right on this top because there was a couple areas that I could see through. I'll just do this. And we can see that's hardening up. And we should be good. Yeah. So there we go. Super glue is awesome. This active, you definitely have to do it and set it and hold it, because once you're done, you're done. So supposedly this will fit over this. Might have to do a little bit of sanding. I made this tolerance just a little bit too much. But I wanted this tight, like that, because this is going to go, I have like a board with a hole in it, and this will go in, and this will go on the other side, so the board will be here that goes out. This will be the part that goes out to the outside. And then I made this too big. Imagine that. What are the odds? So this isn't too bad. Or what I could end up doing, well, yeah, I could just end up making another one of these, make it with, measure the inside diameter and make this, so this will fit in there, and then that way we could push this in, you know, like up against there on the inside of this, and then super glue that in, and then that way I could put like a filter in there or something, you know, capture the big particulates going out, and then the filter would also keep stuff from coming in. So yeah, so a little proof of concept thing here, not bad. I kind of figured yeah. Now this could work, because if I do this, so I could glue this onto there. Now, because I still want to be able to have access. So this is going to be the big one. Let's see if this fits over. Yeah, cool. So at least I got that measurement right. And then so you'll have a space here where the board is going to be here, and then we'll be able to put a hose clamp, so we've got more than enough room for the hose clamp. So you have the piece that goes in the hole, this will go to the outside, have a board like a window. This will snap on to keep it connected there. We can put it on our tube, put it on a hose clamp, and yeah, so it's just got a little exhaust. That looks pretty good. That's pretty good for the most part, except for this one piece here. So yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. Oh no! Oh no! I just saw this. He was broken. Seriously? Oh no! Our tube is broken. That's what I get for having too many models and stuff on here. We can fix this because we have super glue, we have activator. So I'm going to do this. Oh, this isn't, it is not activating. Why? Oh, I remember, because I broke this before, and I think the issue was I used UV resin. So maybe that is why. Just breaking all kinds of crap on this guy, seriously. Yeah, this is kind of like melting, because this is, I used UV resin to try to fix this before. Let's if I can point this in the right direction this time. Please fix, solidify. No, it's not. Oh, that is just so odd that this is not working. That is a first. So we might have to put out like put on a soldering iron to fuse this guy together. Holy crow. I've never run into this problem before. I don't know, we'll have to just let him cure. And we have this little piece we need to fix, but we'll do that at a later date. Interesting. Interesting. We got Adam here. It says, have you seen the new female custody models being revealed? No, I haven't. I have not. That should be interesting. That'll raise a ruckus amongst the Warhammer people. Because, yeah. But they have the Sisters of Battle, so I don't know, you know, it's not like women are not represented in the Warhammer world, but yeah, I guess it is what it is. But what can you do? I mean, I'm not that big into the Warhammer stuff, but I know enough to where all of them are males except for the Sisters of Battle. So changing lore that has been around since, what, the 80s? That's going to piss off a lot of people. So I think we need a new blade. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Hopefully we'll let that guy continue to be fixed. And then we also got to do his little top part there. We'll do that some other date, but that's what we got going on. So we got our proof of concept here, and that works. We just need to do a measurement of the inside diameter for this, so that way we can put the screen. We can actually make two of these, and well, maybe just one, because I want to be able to have this screen inset on the inside of this, so I can put like a foam filter in there. So that way to catch any debris and to keep bugs and stuff from coming into the house. So, but other than that, it works. Tolerance, I need to work on the joining. I should have adjusted those, but if I make this in like ABS or ASA or whatever, that can stand high heat. Yeah, this is just a proof of concept thing here, so it worked out pretty good. Alrighty. I'm kind of happy. This will work for the winter. We'll see how it goes. And it does, the tubing fits on, so I'd give this 95% if I had to grade it. Alrighty. Yeah. Need a little bit of improvement and we should be good to go. So that's what we got going on. Let's get back to the studio desk and we can finish up this video. Yeah. So that's what we end up having. Yeah, fun stuff. And we're going to continue on doing more 3D printing and stuff like that. So I do need to go through, because on the video that you noticed, you probably looked like my hands were like, there's a little bit of motion blur. And I think that's because, yep, it was set at 30 frames per second. So we will bump that up to 60, and supposedly now it's set to 60. And let's go back. I want to see if the motion blur, how that looks. So that's better than what it was. So yeah, it was at 30. That's why it looked a little bit choppy. So for some reason, I'm not sure why, with the YoloCam S3 that I have over there on the paint station, when we have that view, it's really good for auto focusing. So when I do my painting, I'm not going to buy a $1,000 mirrorless camera with an $800 lens just to do miniature painting. I mean, it would be nice, but I don't have that type of an allowance. So the YoloCam, or the YoloCam S3 was what I had to settle with. So it'll be interesting to get all this stuff plugged in. I got to reroute a bunch of cables on my computer and stuff like that, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, let me see if I can save that scene. 4K 60 FPS. Paint station. So that way, if I go into scenes and I can save everything, again, I'm not sure why it won't start back up. It's 60 frames per second. So that's something else I got to do, is got to remember that when I do that, that'll be one thing I got to check. But I got to redo a bunch of routing of cables. I've got some new USB-C cables redoing. I'm not using the USB-A or regular USB cables for the cameras. Hopefully that'll work, because on my Mac Mini I've got more USB-C ports than I do the USB regular ones. And there seems to be a conflict with the streaming software that I have, Ecamm Live. You can't hook a lot of cameras into it because it freaks out. So we're just going to go to the USB-C and hopefully, keeping the fingers crossed, and we'll see how that does. So yeah, that is what we end up having here. Pretty much that's going to be it. Like I said, had a little bit of an accident this morning. Back was a little bit out, so I didn't get to the gym, so I was sad, hurt and injured, but I took good drugs and good medications and all that stuff, and I'm feeling a lot better. I think by Monday I should be good to go. So that's a bonus. And then, yeah, I can always just do stuff online, play around with Tinkercad, look at other models, print out more stuff, and yeah, there's some other stuff that I want to end up getting for the studio, because we got all that stuff over there where the paint station is at, but that's right in front of a window, and I'm thinking about getting some pegboard. The pegboard is going to be really interesting, because this pegboard thing, oh seriously, really? Let me see. I'm not going to be able to get a good picture of that because I'm using a VPN. But basically, that's like 186 centimeters long, 35 millimeters deep, and it's like 190 centimeters tall. So all of that is pegboard. So that will go in front of the window, and that will give me a lot more storage. It'll look a little bit more professional than just what we end up having on, yeah, the background that we see over there. Because, yeah, it's just right. That's just like all that up there. Yeah, that's just a window blind that I have, and I got cardboard over the windows. So, yeah, it's not real professional. So with the pegboard, that'll be great because it'll allow me to have shelves. I can do a bunch of storage. I can make different types of, I don't know, storage option drawers with the pegboard, with my 3D printer and all that stuff. So I think that'll be a welcome addition. And it's about 168, basically it's 170,000 won, which 170,000 won divided by 1465 for the exchange rate, it's $116. So that's pretty doable. I think that's pretty doable. So we'll be doing that. And yeah, what is some, oh, Adam said about the female custodies. Female custodies. Let's see if we can get some pictures. And I think we found some pictures. Let's check this out. This will be interesting. I thought it was only going to be a matter of time. So New Custodes. Games Workshop is finally making female Custodes models, which is interesting because in the Warhammer lore, it is said that they are always male. There were no females. So they're making a drastic change to the Warhammer deal. New models mark the first time tabletop players will be given the option to build Custodes units with their unhelmeted female heads, which a bunch of geeky people are going to like explode because, yeah. Marks a departure from the previous Custodi models, which have always been male, presenting heads to the emperors of man's personal guard. Yeah. So, but the Custodies have always been the Sisters of Silence. That's what it was, Sisters of Silence. First introduced back in 2017, but in 2024, they gradually began to roll back some of those restrictions. Featured a short story centered on a woman custodian named whatever. And at the time, they're only represented later on, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so anyway. So basically, it ends up, they're just making a bunch of models with female heads. Here's where it gets interesting. Is that they also confirm this isn't a lore change. The firstborn sons aren't the only way to get Custodes, and noble daughters could have also been taken. At that point, you run out of noble houses. Even after you've conquered all the Terra, the inexorable war machine of the Imperium still requires a constant churn of recruits. But, I mean, they're changing it, is what it comes down to. So, I don't play Warhammer. I mean, I like the figures and I like painting them and stuff like that. But why not just make a new story? Why do you have to? This is a problem that I see with a lot of other things, like in entertainment and so on and so forth. Is you have these things that it's like they have male characters and successful storylines, movies, games, the whole nine yards. And then suddenly it comes up, oh, now we have to have representation, so we're going to have, like James Bond. I remember reading Ian Fleming's James Bond books, all of them, incredible author, just love James Bond, okay? But the problem is when they said, oh, we're going to make a female James Bond. And it's like, no, you can't, because James Bond is James Bond. He's James. He's a man. The character is a man. It's who the character is he's a man. And unfortunately, during these last number of years, I don't know who it is. It's people in Hollywood that think that, well, we're going to hijack existing characters and stories and make the main character a female, and then we'll downplay all the male characters, and then suddenly that'll make the female character look good and strong and all those great things. And it's like, no, it just, when we see Hollywood doing that, usually it's at the expense of men. Men are made out to be the idiots. They're made to be bumbling and fools and not smart, or, kind of the third wheel. And then to make the women seem stronger, they're denigrating men in the supporting cast and so on and so forth. So, and then the women as being strong, under the guise of strong, how do they show that besides making men look stupid? Is get to the point of where, well, they're going to be snarky, they're going to have an attitude, they're going to be blah, 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 and all that in a bag of chips. And it's like, it's not the attitude that a male character would have. A strong male character is a strong male character. And then it's strange because Hollywood seems to think that, oh, this has never been done before. But you look at movies like Alien, Sigourney Weaver and a number of other female, the Terminator chick and stuff like that. I know it sounds bad because I don't know her name. But you have a number of other strong female characters that were able to lead entire movies and series and the whole nine yards without making men look stupid. In other words, they wrote very good stories, and people liked it. Men and women liked those stories. But the problem is today, they can't make up their own good stories because they don't know how to write good stories. And the only way that they think that they can make the woman main character look good is by making the men look stupid, and then the women have this attitude, It just, nobody wants to be around that. Nobody wants that. At least, normal people anyway. So, yeah, it's just quite the cracked up BS. It's like, oh, I get so tired of it. And then the recent thing, I was a big Star Trek fan way back in the day, like way back in the day. Right? William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, when they were young, when all those people were young, when it was on TV and stuff. I'm going to be 60 this year. But now the new not Star Trek, but yeah, Star Trek. Yeah, Star Trek comes out and it is a shit show. It is a total shit show. It's just like safe spaces, pronouns and the whole 9 yards, and then people who are neurodivergent and socially awkward out the yin yang. They have a Klingon who's no longer a warrior. He's kind of like a beta Klingon, and it's just, I watched part of it and I was just like, oh my gosh, this Star Trek is done. It is done for me. I will not watch another Star Trek ever again, because what they've turned it into would make Gene Roddenberry roll in his grave numerous times, come back from the dead, and just unalive everybody who had a hand in making this. And it's just gotten worse and worse over time. It just gets worse and worse, and it's like it's not even Star Trek anymore. It's just horrible. Horrible. So anyway, that's what we got going on. So I'm going back to the old things, the old ways, the old movies, the old strong characters, whether they're men or women, and great stories. But the problem is a lot of people today who are in Hollywood can't write great stories anymore. And because they can't make great stories, they have to hijack successful characters, stories, and change them. And they change them for the worse. So, yeah, that's what we have today. Just very, very sad. The funny thing is, while all this is happening in Hollywood, I'm watching more foreign films and movies because they haven't lost their way when it comes to storytelling. So there's Chinese movies that I'm watching. There's stuff from Korea. There's stuff from other countries that it's like, hey, this is from Germany. This is from Russia. And it's like, it's a little different, obviously. And they're dubbed or they're subtitled or whatever it is, or both. But they're putting out some good stories. So I think Hollywood needs to get their shit together. Otherwise, they're going to lose their collective shit. And people are going to see that, hey, we don't want that anymore. And with AI coming in, holy crow, we're not going to have to pay, 50, 60, 70, 80 million dollars for an A-list actor to get into a movie or a series. It's all going to be AI. We already have AI music. I've got a number of AI music that I love. And nobody was needed to play an instrument or sing. It's all done by computer, and it can generate some pretty good stuff. We're seeing AI. I mean, I think within the next 2-3 years, we're going to have an AI TV series, at least within 5 years. And then I would say 5 years, we'll probably have a movie. So I'll kick that out to 8 years. But yeah, I think we'll have series, we'll have movies with AI, and the characters will be great. You won't have to film, you won't have to pay anybody an arm and a leg just to star in it, because you can make your own stars. And AI is going to do that. So I don't know, it's a very odd time to be alive. And compared to when I was a kid and we had family members that worked at Universal Studios, not as the amusement park ride tour thing, but people who actually worked at Universal Studios. And I got to meet like Charlton Heston, who are the two guys from Chips, whoever those two guys were, the original Chips guys. Met Telly Savalas and stuff like that. Who's another good one? Just a handful of other actors. And because I was exposed to that early on as a child, and the people that I met were respectful and nice, I was never enamored with celebrities. I always just, the ones that I met seemed to be good people, and they were nice to me. And so it's just, I just thought they're just like anybody else. So it's just, they got a cool job and wow, that's it. I was never enamored or I wasn't starstruck by any celebrities whatsoever. So I'm appreciative of that. That is something that I really appreciate. But then you have celebrities who think they're all that in a bag of chips. And it's like, you know what? You're not. You're really not. Which brings to mind, let me see if I can find that. Rain, deaf, not dancing. You're probably like, what? Rain, deaf, not dancing? What is he talking about? This is an interesting thing because this guy ended up, I just saw this today, but there's this guy, Rain, a Korean singer, and what he ended up doing is he's really full of himself. And so we'll take a look at that. So here he is. Dun, dun, dun. This comes after the Korean star called out concert goer in Singapore for being too quiet and not dancing. And then he called out a fan for not dancing. So there he is. He was in Singapore. And yeah, we get it. K-pop star Rain wants concert goers to go to all his shows. And what he ended up doing is that he pointed out to this girl in front of the entire audience, why aren't you dancing? He did this mid-concert. And it's just like he stopped the concert and went up. She was in the front and he's pointing, why aren't you dancing? You need to dance and blah, blah, blah. And it ends up that, it really wasn't, it didn't go well. Because when you're so egotistical that you think I'm a K-pop star and everybody should be up dancing, and then he stops the entire show because one person isn't dancing and confronts her. Talk about shame. Could you imagine that? Somebody talking down to you. Well, it ends up that the lady that he talked to was deaf. She didn't know what he was saying, but more importantly, who cares? If she doesn't want to dance, maybe she has some type of medical problem. Maybe she just doesn't like dancing in public. I don't know. Maybe she's really reserved. But yeah, he ended up doing this whole thing and calling her out basically on the world stage. And yeah, it did not go well for him. He was pointing and saying, hey, let's see, dun, 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 for not dancing at his concert. And he took a good amount of time to do that. So the next day he said he apologized for a misunderstanding involved a fan that was hard of hearing at his recent concert. Yeah, the female fan known only as Chi-Chi on social media recounted what happened. So yeah, she wasn't dancing. He stopped and the whole 9 yards was, why aren't you dancing? Stomped his foot and asked her to do it again with, get up and dance and whatever. And she thought he wanted her to sing higher and said sorry to him while pointing to her ear at the same time because she's deaf. Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy on why would you do that in a concert? I mean, why would you go to all that and pick out one person and say, why aren't you dancing? You are so full of yourself and you're so egotistical. Seriously? Really? That's what you're going to do? You're so insecure because one person isn't dancing at the concert that you're giving that you're going to stop the whole concert and point, you need to get up, and you need to dance. Come on, why aren't you dancing? Maybe she doesn't like you that much. Maybe she doesn't like dancing in public, and maybe she just wasn't feeling it. I don't know. Maybe the fact that she was deaf and had something to do with it. It doesn't really matter. But the fact that he stopped the entire concert for one person that wasn't dancing, he's a douche. Okay, that's it for me. We're just gonna end it at that. He's douche material, and it's just like crazy. Yeah, what do you do? And the deaf lady, it was her birthday, and had hoped Rain would be able to see her post after tagging him, and it went, Yeah, it's and then he apologized. Yeah, of course he apologizes after the fact, but the fact that you did that to begin with is just you're a horrible person. If you're so insecure that you think that everybody must be dancing when you're singing, that is absolutely insane. I don't get it. Anyway, yeah, as you can tell, I'm not too big on celebrities. I'm not starstruck with celebrities in any way, shape, or form. Let's see. It was Rampage Jackson. He was in Hawaii when I was there at a military PX. He was there, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's Rampage Jackson!" And Rampage. It's just like, okay, cool. He fought, did UFC stuff, MMA, and all that. Cool. I appreciate that. He's got skills, stuff that I could never do. Um, but to swoon over him and to fight to be able to get a picture with him, yeah, that's not how I roll. I wouldn't be like that for anybody. So yeah, I don't care who it is. It's you put your pants on the same way. Yeah, you make a buttload more money than anybody. He's K-pop, so he's probably making a boatload of money. That doesn't impress me. It really doesn't. If you're shitty to people and you treat people like that because your ego is so fragile that you have to stop an entire concert, I don't ever want to meet him or anybody else like him. So I don't know. That's just me. That's just me. That's just me. Okay, so that's going to be it. I think we finished this episode of Retired Overseas, and because we talked about Vitaly being deported back to Russia, even though he had a green card in the United States. Apparently, the U.S. said, nope, we're done with Vitaly. Yeah, and he found God, but I'm going to go out on a limb. Like I said, I don't think that was real. I think he's just trying to play some cards to get out of jail quicker. Maybe it had something to do with it, maybe it didn't. But the fact that the Philippines didn't punish him hard enough to make an example out of him. Now they got two more guys that have been arrested. Again, streamers. And everybody knew it. If you don't punish these guys hard and fast, when it first pops up, you're going to have more problems. And that's what the Philippines is facing right now. So I feel sorry for the good everyday people of the Philippines because they're being used by these nuisance streamers. We talked about Coupang and the problems and the corruption in the United States and politics and government and, how Coupang lied its ass off saying, oh, everything's good. And yeah, somehow the Korean employee flew back to Korea and threw the laptop in the Han River, which why would he do that? That makes no sense whatsoever. And then fly back to China. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He could have just destroyed the computer in China and say, I don't know what you're talking about. And, I don't have a laptop. So where's the proof? That could have been it. But Coupang did their own investigation, supposedly all outside of the bounds with no cooperation with the Korean government whatsoever. Oh, and then Coupang, here, I forgot to tell you about this. They said they're giving compensation. The compensation isn't compensation. Compensation is money for loss, damage, and suffering. Coupang says we're going to give $1 billion, and it's coupons on Coupang. And it's like 5,000 won for this, but you have to buy something to get the 5,000 won discount. They've got another amount of money, like 50,000 or another 10,000 or 20,000 won for luxury goods. Luxury goods. We're talking like Prada. We're talking about Dolce & Gabbana bags. And so, so you're going to spend a buttload of money just to get $14 in a discount. That's not compensation. And here's the other strange thing. Then they also have it for travel and something else. So you have to spend money to get the discount, but Coupang gives discounts throughout the year anyway. So they're not out of pocket for anything. They're just saying, oh, well, instead of giving coupons later on in the year, we'll just bring it now and we'll call it compensation. It's not compensation by any legal means whatsoever. The other thing in Coupang, the problem with that is you have people that left Coupang and they closed their accounts. They don't get the compensation because you have to order something from Coupang. Yeah, it's total BS. Then we talked about the exchange rate, and then we kind of got off on some other stuff, and we finished that up. So anyway, yeah, that's what we have up going on in here, up in this house, here in South Korea. And what day is it? I know it's Saturday. It's it's Friday. 23rd of, I told you I was on good drugs. It's Friday, the 23rd of January. And yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's about 7:15 in the evening here. So with that, it's about time for me to take some more medication to deal with my back, and hopefully I'll be ready for Monday to get back to the gym. I think I am. It's just kind of a little stiff, a little tweak. I got some muscle relaxants and some other stuff going on to help out with that, and then I'll take it easy on Monday, and we'll get back into the normal swing of things. And I won't go sliding across the floor and tripping and falling or anything like that. I'm not going to do that anymore. So, yeah, just word of warning, don't do that. It's not good. With that, if you want to contact me, if anybody wants to contact me, give me some information, tips, tricks on how to be a better 3D printer, model printer, expat guy, you can contact me right there. There's my email address, officialthevariedlife@gmail.com. Be sure to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. We're going to have a product review. A company approached me, and yeah, they're like, hey, do you want to do a review? And I was like, yeah, if I can do an honest review, I would be glad to do it. And they're like, sure. So I was like, okay. So we got that coming on board. And, we always got printing and painting and other stuff going on, and talking about being retired overseas here in Korea. Some other stuff, not over there, but over here, we got people that bought me coffee. If you want to do that, that's cool. But the very best thing that you could do is press that like button, smash that subscribe, hit that bell, and that will be the best thing that you can do for me. So I would really, really appreciate that. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and sign off, and we will see you on the next video. All right? Peace. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.